All right, we are at 7:01. Our time together is limited, so I want to jump in and get started. Hello to everybody who is joining us, whether it's evening, morning, or afternoon your time. We welcome you here to this session. Actually, the title slide says Sending Your Student to Oh-Wooo. We advertised it as Becoming a Bishop. Either way, you are either getting ready to become a bishop, considering becoming a bishop, or sending your student to Ohio Wesleyan. And you have questions. We know that there are probably questions on your mind. And so we've assembled individuals from across campus to try and address some of those things that you are wondering about. So in just a moment, I'm going to ask our three panelists to introduce themselves. They'll each say a little bit about the area in which they work, how they interact with students. And as they are talking, feel free to start sending your questions our way. Please use the Q&A function. We won't monitor the chat, but we will monitor the Q&A function and we will address your questions that way. I will announce them so everyone can hear, and we will have our panelists answer them. If you don't have questions, I will start with questions that come in during panels just like this one, but I'm sure you have questions. So please start sending them your way, but I will start with Laura and ask you to introduce yourself.
All right, thank you, Stephanie. I'm so happy to be here with all of you this evening. Well, it's evening here, wherever you are, whatever time it is. My name is Laura Tehila-Bruning. I am a microbiologist in the Department of Biological Sciences here at Ohio Wesleyan University. I also run the scanning electron microscope. So I teach classes in electron microscopy, microbiology, and cell biology. But tonight I'm coming to you in my role as the interim dean for academic performance and advising. And this is a really exciting role for me because I get to work directly with students and their families, especially the students, to help them with figuring out their way around Ohio Wesleyan, being that person who bridges the gap between the students and professors if there's any kind of issues going on, to help resolve those issues so that the students get the best learning experience they can possibly get here at Ohio Wesleyan. I also work with academic advisors. Academic advisors are assigned to each individual student who becomes a student here at Ohio Wesleyan. The academic advisors are assigned after students do registration for their classes in the fall. Just to let you know how that happens a little bit, in June, all of the incoming students meet individually with a faculty registration guide. It's a virtual appointment and students meet to discuss with the faculty registration guide what kind of classes they're going to be taking in the fall and actually register for those classes. That person, that faculty registration guide, can kind of be a point person for students until they're assigned their academic advisors, which will usually happen sometime late July or early August. We try to match up the advisors with the interests of the students. So if a student is interested in studying foreign languages, they would have an advisor in that department. If they're interested in science, they would have a science advisor. The students actually meet with their advisors before they even have their actual first day of class. So you get to know who your advisor is, know that that person is a resource for you, for the students. It's not that advisors have all the answers, but academic advisors help students find the answers. So it's a good way to know there's somebody on your side right from the beginning there to help you out and guide you through, along with all the other resources that are at Ohio Wesleyan. So it's exciting to get that relationship going. It's also, I should let you know, that students can change academic advisors. So if it is maybe a student decides they're coming in to study something in particular, but then change their mind and they'd like an advisor in that particular area of study, they can change their advisor. It's not a difficult process at all. And that way students really make sure that there's somebody who they can relate to and really get in touch with for their time here at Ohio Wesleyan. You don't have to have an advisor in your area of study. Sometimes I'm assigned students and they end up changing their plans to study in a different area other than science. And they don't have to change if they feel comfortable working with their advisor. I've had students stay with me and it turns out I can help advise a a pretty good psychology and history degree as well. So it's not impossible to do. It's really about the relationship. So you'll hear from everybody here that it's about the relationship between the people who are here to help and students. So I think I'll stop there and give it back to Stephanie.
Thank you, Laura. Doug, you want to jump in?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Doug Coyle. I'm our Associate Dean for Student Success. I work in the Division of Student Engagement and Success, which supports student life outside the classroom. A lot of campuses will call that student affairs or student life. We're the Dean of Students Office, but regardless of what we call it, it's a team that supports students in many ways outside of the academic area. My specific area includes residential life, so that's student housing. We are a residential campus, so the majority of our students do live on campus. Public safety is in my area, and we have officers on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. They are also located in the residential side of campus, which is a great resource for our students. Counseling services reports to me. We have a licensed mental health staff who are available to our students. Jess is going to introduce herself here in a few minutes, but student integrity and community standards. And also our health services, which are managed by Ohio Health, but located on campus, also in the residential side of campus, where we have licensed physicians and nurses that students can schedule visits with if they need to. Our division outside of my area also does include student involvement, Greek life, service learning, the chaplain's office, our multicultural student affairs department, and our newly launched esports program that's an exciting opportunity for my students. So I'm happy to visit with you for a few minutes and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Doug. Jess.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jess Irvine. I'm the Assistant Dean for Student Integrity and Community Standards, which, like Doug mentioned, is out of Student Engagement and Success. So my core function on campus is overseeing policies that apply to students and providing support to them, whether it be through our conduct resolution process or behavioral response for a student in need. I'm also responsible for prevention education on campus and making sure that our students are getting the education they need around healthy relationships, sexual health, mental health, substance use, different things like that. And then I work really closely with Doug on other type of care things if a student is in need of any type of support.
Very good. Thank you so much. So I've seen a couple of questions come in. By the way, I think that I was so busy watching to see as people were coming in the room that I then jumped right into our panel and didn't introduce myself. I think that's a first. My name is Stephanie Niles. I'm the Vice President for Enrollment and Communications here at Ohio Wesleyan, and will certainly assist, if needed, answering questions that you all submit in the Q&A. So there are a couple in here. Please do keep them coming. First, Laura, we'll turn this back to you. I know you've talked a little bit about advising. This person's asking if the admission counselor is the same person that will be your advisor. I know the answer is no, but maybe you can talk a little bit about that transition.
Of course, yes. So that's a great question because you've probably been working very closely with an admissions counselor, and they are a great resource. But once you get to campus, you are paired up with another person, either a faculty or a staff member from the area of study that you want to investigate and work on for the next 4 years. This is because those people are really good at knowing that field of study and helping you to pick classes, navigate what would be good choices of classes, and how you can start getting experience in that field, even starting from first year. That's not to say that admissions counselors aren't great either. They're great at getting information to you about what it's like to apply to Ohio Wesleyan and how to get here and what the experience might be like. But then working with academics, which is another big part of why you're here at Ohio Wesleyan. That's what the academic advisor is for. And again, just to let you know, that would be a different person than your admissions counselor, and it will likely even be a different person than the faculty registration guide that works with students coming in the summer and having that virtual meeting to schedule and register for classes. So those faculty registration guides are not always going to be the academic advisor. It might turn out that they are, but not necessarily.
Very good. And along that same theme, when will you have the date for the virtual meeting with the faculty registration guide? When will we announce those, and when will students find out their time?
So yeah, that's for incoming students. If you are looking forward to joining us in the fall, we will have that orientation session in late June. Prior to the orientation session, students will take a course on Blackboard. That's our learning management system, our online learning management system that we use at Ohio Wesleyan. So even if you're not familiar with that particular learning management, it's easy to use. You'll get a chance to try it out and see how it works. And so when you get here on campus in August, it will be very easy to use for classes. So it's one of the reasons why we put this course there for the orientation. Probably in May, mid-May, you will be getting a notification via email that the course is live, and you will need to take that before your appointment, before sometime in mid-June, with the faculty registration guide. That course, don't worry about it. It's not like a pass-fail kind of thing. It's really just to let you know a lot of information about Ohio Wesleyan, including how to pick classes, including what some of your interests might be. And you'll fill out a few forms, pick some classes from a variety of classes listed that you might be interested in. And that's to start the conversation with the faculty registration guide for the appointment in late June. That way, the person who you're working with will have an idea already about what kind of courses you are interested in, and the conversation can start right away, and you don't have to spend any time with that. You can start right in with the information about courses. So registration for this summer coming up, I believe the actual date is either June 23rd or 22nd. I think it's the 23rd that it starts, and then it will last till June 29th. So sometime between June 23rd and June 29th, you will be assigned an appointment with a faculty registration guide. There will be some opportunity to say when you are available and when a good time to make that appointment would be. So it's not, we're just going to randomly assign appointments, and good luck with that. We'll work with you to get some information on what a good time might be. And then during that time, you would use the Zoom link that's provided to you and work with the faculty registration guide and get a schedule actually in place and register for classes.
That is great. Thank you for that. Doug, this one might be for you. What's a student's username for the housing portal, and how do you access the portal once you've deposited and received your Oh-Wooo email?
Yeah, it's a couple of these questions come up here, and after students, submit their deposit, they'll get information about housing and the process. And I believe the username and the email address are one and the same. But I think a good general rule of thumb is when a student is working their way through the housing process, they can always email Residential Life and ask questions, and they can give them a call too, but I think emailing is actually a quick, efficient way to get some guidance on the process. But then I typically have a deadline around mid-June for getting a housing request in. I know a common question is about the roommate selection process. That generally happens, historically it's been right after orientation, and I realize our orientation is virtual this year, but it gives students an opportunity to maybe get to know some other incoming students if there's somebody that they want to request to room with. And it's important to know that if two or more students want to room together, they would need to request each other. It can't just be one student requesting another one and expecting them to be paired with that student. But that information will come out. And then in early July, room assignments will be sent to students. And like I said, along the way, it's any questions that you have about the process or your options. It's a kind of a good rule of thumb to email Residential Life, and they'll help you through that process.
And Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the housing portal is open now. So a student who has paid a deposit can go to the housing portal and there would be instructions there as to how to proceed. But as you said, it's also not due until June 15th. So there's still plenty of time, as you mentioned, if you are interacting with students on campus, meeting people, interacting through social media, there is still time. You don't need to feel like you need to rush to submit that. You're not going to be penalized or advantaged if you submit in April versus May versus June. Is that all correct?
Yeah, that's a great point, and thank you for clarifying that. So yeah, there is no rush as long as the housing application is submitted by the deadline, and that information will be included there. And then for anyone who's not aware, our first year students live in Smith Hall, which is newly renovated, and it's a great environment for first year students because of all the conveniences that are there in Smith. We have a 24/7 dining operation. We have recreational facilities, fitness center, plenty of study and programming space, laundry facilities. So it's a great place for not only students to live in, but for us to connect with students and students to connect with each other. And it gives us an opportunity to give students a great first year experience.
Stephanie, I just wanted to throw in too. So I noticed someone said that there's nothing in the housing portal. So you actually have to fill out what's called the housing application, which is then when you'll have to go through and fill out the things about yourself. We always encourage students to also fill out who their true self is when they fill out the questionnaire, and not their ideal self, because when we place students with their roommate, we're going to place it off of what you answer. So when you go into the housing portal, you're going to look for the housing application, and then you'll be able to fill that out. If you still have issues, contact Res Life, but it'll also be with instructions on Blackboard in the new student checklist. So don't panic, you will get a room and a roommate, and we won't just throw you in with some random person, but that's what you're looking for when you go in the portal.
Thank you for that. Either Jess or Doug, maybe you want to talk a little bit about the start of the semester. So, and Laura, perhaps as well, when does fall semester begin? When is move-in day? That's a quick answer, but even maybe talk a little bit about what will happen in that first week leading up to classes.
Yeah, I can kick that off. I believe move-in day, I think, is Thursday, August 18th, right? And
correct.
And for first year students, I'm sure you've heard about or read about the Camp Oh-Wooo experience, and students have, the option of the type of experience that they're most interested in. And so after students get moved in, we begin that camp experience the next day. It gives students a great opportunity to not only get to know each other and in a unique environment, but also get to know a lot of kind of the staff and administrators that they'll be relying on. Then we do kick off quite a bit of our kind of welcome week activities. We have convocation, and there are a lot of other activities, some of which are specific to certain groups. I know a lot of our students are student athletes. They will tend to move in earlier, and they won't be able to participate in the traditional kind of camp experience, but there are other kind of welcome activities for them, as well as some of our other student organizations and activities. Jess, you may think of some of the welcome week. I know you coordinate our Bishop Way program, and we do quite a bit of work around there. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so following camp, students will come back to campus and do kind of like the administrative tasks. So if you have to touch base with your advisor, you'll meet your UC 160 instructor, which is kind of like a college 101 class for lack of any other way to describe it. You'll participate in that. And then after you do that stuff, like Doug mentioned, the Bishop Way program. So that's around prevention education, making sure you know what your resources are on campus and making sure that you feel supported and you know where to go for help if something happens. Maybe if a friend consumes too much alcohol, or if you just need to talk to someone because you're feeling homesick and all that kind of stuff. The rest of the week and the week after that is a lot of different ways to get you involved on campus. So there will be an involvement fair, so you can go around and meet the different clubs and organizations. There will be different events to get you out of your residence hall room and make sure that you're meeting other people. Your RAs will be checking in with you. So there's a lot going on, but it's intentional to make sure that you feel welcome and that you feel like you're finding different ways to get engaged on campus. And then those activities will slow down a little, but they won't go away totally. But after all those things happen, that's when classes start. So you'll have a lot of time to get acclimated before we just throw you straight into classes.
And I can add what happens after that, after the activities and once classes are going. So I'm going to back up, not exactly to right when classes start, but this year in the fall, classes begin on Wednesday, August 24th. And so Camp Oh-Wooo will be going on over the weekend. And when students return back, Monday is really going to be kind of a day when it's transitioning into all those fun activities and kind of getting into the classroom experience and the learning experience. So on that day, as just mentioned, there'll be the first meeting of the UC 160 course. Students will meet with their instructors for that course. That is our first year course, and it introduces students to a lot of information that, you know, we spread it out a little bit because we hit you with so much information during that welcome week. We need to spread things out a little bit so you don't get too overwhelmed. And we give it to you, that information, when it becomes really needed, like when you're registering for classes for the next semester. We talk about that in the UC 160 class. But we start that first Monday meeting with the UC 160 class. You get to see your instructor for that class, your professor, along with your classmates, and you do just basically your first class. It's your first class at Ohio Wesleyan. After that, what we have been doing recently, and I hope we continue to do that, is walk over as a class to President Rock Jones's house and have lunch on the lawn with President Jones. And then after that, students meet for the very first time with their academic advisors. So you walk back to campus and meet with academic advisors. And those meetings are group meetings. So all the new students for that particular advisor meet at the same time. That could be a longer or shorter meeting, depending on what the academic advisor has in mind. And if students need some advising like right away, maybe they've decided, oh, I think I really want to rearrange my schedule a little bit. Can I do that now? Yeah, that would be a good time. And that's a good time to talk to your advisor. There are activities going on the rest of Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday is when classes begin.
That's great. Thank you all so much for that. Question sort of as a follow-up to that topic, students asking about if they join marching band and come for band camp, is there a gap between the end of band camp and Camp Oh-Wooo, and what do they do during that time if that exists? Jess or Doug, do you want to address that?
Yeah, let me double check the band camp dates. Do you know the dates off the top of your head?
I don't.
Okay, can we come back to that question? I'll double check that on our website really quickly.
Absolutely. There's a couple of band camp questions. So yes. And Doug, I know you mentioned this before, but typically with certainly band and all fall sports, students will hear from coaches. They're probably among the best resources around dates and move-in. Certainly Res Life can answer those questions as well, but coaches are going to be in that loop.
That's a great point, because some of this does change from year to year depending on, you know, as I'm thinking about the band camp, you know, we've had some transition there and the leadership and their approach, so that anyone who's in the band will be getting that information, the move-in information, and their kind of itinerary for that program. And certainly coaches for fall sports as well. We build in some, move in and orientation programs. And there's always kind of a physical at the health center and that sort of thing. So coaches and the athletic trainers are kind of the point people for student athletes in their schedule prior to the beginning of the academic term.
So what I'm seeing on our website, it looks like the band students arrive probably, it looks like about a week, maybe 10 days prior to first year move in. So students will move in, they'll go to band camp will end, and then Camp Oh-Wooo will start. So lots of camp in August. So it looks like that's how that'll work. So it doesn't look like you'll have to go home and then come back. But band camp will finish, and then first year welcome things will start. So there will be a nice little buffer for you, and then you actually won't have to deal with the chaos on move-in day because you'll already be moved into your room. You're muted, Stephanie.
Got it. How about a student who is interested in participating in Summer Bridge and marching band? I believe they overlap.
Yeah. So with Summer Bridge, my biggest recommendation would be talk to Jason Timpson about that if you get it accepted into the program, because going into the Bridge program, it actually counts as a credit now for students, which is awesome. So I'm not quite sure how that will back up if there's coursework that's due, but our faculty are very flexible. So I would imagine if you want to participate in both, there's a way to work it out. You'll just need to talk directly with the director of the Summer Bridge program.
Very good. And just a quick note, and Doug or Jess, feel free to add anything. I know we've sent some communication out about the Summer Bridge program. As Jess mentioned, it does require an application, a brief application. If you want to participate, it is a free program. You'd be on campus for 3 weeks. As Jess said, you'd be earning a credit for a class taken during that time. On the website, if you just Google Summer Bridge program, you will find more information about that. And Jason Timpson is the best resource. The application is due May 15th. And then students will be notified probably by the end of May so that they have plenty of time. It starts toward the end of July. I don't have the exact date, but it starts toward the end of July. So you'll have plenty of time to make arrangements then to be on campus early. Okay. Laura, here's one for you. If I want to take the pre-med track, will my advisor be Dr. David Marquardt?
Great question. You probably know that Dr. David Marquardt is the pre-med and pre-health advisor. So it's possible that Dr. Marquardt could be your academic advisor, but not entirely, that's not entirely going to be the case. So he has a lot of students that he works with in the pre-med capabilities and area. However, just about anybody in any of the sciences, biological sciences, chemistry, even physics, knows quite a bit about pre-med and the pre-med curriculum and could do a very good job at helping to advise a student in that area. In fact, we have so many students interested in pre-med that we really do need to spread it around all the students around to different advisors, because poor Dr. Marquardt would just be overrun. He would have so many advisees. So it's good to have, I have students who are my advisees who are pre-med and pre-vet even. So we all know what kind of things go into those majors, and Dr. Marquardt is then a secondary advisor, not actually the official academic advisor, but somebody who's there and who can meet with students periodically if you've got questions, or sometimes in a group if there's something that he wants to share with the entire group of pre-med students or pre-health students for that matter. So he could be your academic advisor, but not necessarily. So if you don't get Dr. Marquardt as your advisor in your pre-med, don't be upset about it. Everybody pretty much in any of the sciences could do a great job helping you out.
Great, and as a follow-up, Laura, I'm going to ask you 2 related questions. One is asking about when will class registration happen? I know you've touched on that, but perhaps you could just review that again. And the other is, the sooner you meet with your advisor, the better in terms of getting into the classes you're interested in.
Okay, so summer registration for our incoming students this year will begin on June 23rd. We'll have appointments set up between June 23rd and June 29th. Now, it doesn't mean that if you get a June 29th appointment, you're not going to get any of the classes you want. So it's a good thing that someone asked this. We make sure that we spread out the seats available in these classes that most of the incoming students will be taking, so that everybody has an equal chance at getting in some of those classes, not just the people who are scheduling on the first day. So people who are scheduling, even if you have a June 29th appointment, it's not like, oh, that's terrible, you're not going to get your classes. That's not necessarily the case, because we've saved seats out in those classes for all students to take. So sometimes classes do fill, and that is one of the struggles with registering for classes, and all academic advisors know this, the faculty registration guides know this. Usually by the time people end up being sophomores, the struggles are not really there as much, because it's really just those first year classes that are sometimes more difficult to get in. However, having said that, we make sure that students take courses that are counting towards their majors and counting towards graduation all the time. Even if it's a class, maybe like you don't want to, you didn't want to, you wanted to get in a certain class and it's all full. It doesn't mean that's going to push back graduation. We make sure you're taking things that are going to count towards graduation. Having it be something you were dead set on taking that semester, okay, that might not happen, but we can get you in that class later on, maybe next semester. And whatever you end up taking the following semester, all of that's going to count.
Very good. Thank you for that. I'll give our panelists a 30-second reprieve, and I'll answer the next one. Can we schedule a campus tour in June? The answer is yes. In mid-May, we moved to summer hours, which just vary slightly. They're 8:30 to 4:30, and keep those up until August. But we are open Monday through Friday each week, and we are happy to have you visit campus, and we are happy to give tours during that time period. So yes, absolutely, we'll welcome you and can take you to where you need to go. All right, so we've talked a lot about dates and all types of things happening. I think this is a great question. Will all of these dates and information be emailed in advance, or do we have to keep track of the dates on the student portal? Does anyone want to talk about some of the resources going out to students now and perhaps the checklist?
I can talk about that. So you'll be getting something called New at Oh-Wooo in your email. It'll provide you with important dates and updates that are coming throughout the summer. So it's very important to watch your Oh-Wooo email. That is the university's official form of communication with our students. So I would strongly encourage you to get in the habit of checking your Oh-Wooo email, whether that be on your phone or logging in once a day or however you want to handle it. We are a Google campus, so it's pretty easy to manage and set up. So all those dates will be in the New at Oh-Wooo. They'll also be in what's called the new student checklist. So you're going to get a checklist of different things you have to do. It's all digital and online, of different tasks that need to be done before you arrive on campus. So for example, filling out the housing application or turning in medical forms, completing online education modules, different things like that. So we will make sure that you're checked off on those things, and you'll get reminders if you're not completing it, so that we can make sure that you're up to date on everything and that you have what you need. It's really, really important to turn in those forms, because if you don't get some of those forms in, we have to put a hold on your student account, which can impact your ability to participate in classes and things like that. So again, please pay attention to that. The other thing that's really helpful, if you ever go on the Oh-Wooo website and you want to know what the academic schedule looks like, you can type academic calendar. Or if you want to go onto the Res Life website because you want to know move in and move out dates or things like that, you can just go ahead and go to the website, and our website has a lot of that information available to you if you just type in calendar. So it is on the website and available, but it'll also be in all of those resources that I just mentioned.
And Jess, I may have missed you saying this, but New at Oh-Wooo comes out on Wednesdays. So Wednesday is the day to look for that communication. It comes out just on Wednesdays. Students, it goes to your Oh-Wooo email address. So if you have deposited but haven't activated that, you're going to want to do that to make sure you have access to that. and to know to look out on Wednesdays for that, with all kinds of reminders and all kinds of information that'll be helpful to you as you continue through the next couple of months before your arrival on campus. Doug, this next one is for you. A student coming to Oh-Wooo from another country is asking, what if they don't have access to all of the same vaccinations required of Ohio Wesleyan? Can you talk a little bit about the vaccination and submission of health forms?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the records that we ask students to submit ahead of time, we're asking for some medical information, but immunizations are a part of that. And we realize that students from other countries may not have access to the same vaccinations that students in the US have, and that's okay. It's important to submit that immunization form. That goes to our student health center, and we do have staff that will work through the summer helping students and parents with the records that need to be submitted. And if for some reason we don't get something from a student, they're going to reach out to the student and they're going to say, hey, we still need this. We can coordinate vaccines for students when they're here, and students can also request to be exempt from vaccines as well. And then it's a matter of us sharing information back with the student about, what that means to be exempt from a certain vaccine, for example. So I think submitting the form, and then you hear back from the student health center, and they'll help answer any questions along the way and help coordinate that in any way you need. But it's typical that international students may not come in with the same immunization record that a student from the United States would.
Very good. Thank you for that. Whomever, is convocation for students only? Who'd like to take that one?
I think I can answer based on what we've recently done. It has in recent years been for students only. I know that there have been other occasions when some parents have attended, but it's typically dependent on the actual schedule. But I do know that the convocation service is intended to be for students and faculty and staff who were on campus.
And pre-COVID, there were parents there. So this will be hopefully the first post-COVID, dare we say, year. So obviously we will see what happens as we move closer to that time period. So as Doug said, it has functioned in both ways. We will be sure to provide information so that family members know whether or not that is specifically for them or just for their students in this year. It is typically outside, which also helps manage crowds. But again, of course, that's also weather dependent as well. That has varied year to year as well. All right, Doug, I know you addressed this, but no, maybe you didn't address this. I know we've talked about camp, as Jess said, we've talked a lot about camps, but where and when do you pick which camp you want to attend?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that after a deposit is submitted, students also receive information about the camp that they're interested in, and a challenge camp and a wilderness camp and a service camp, and the information about what that includes and what that looks like and what experience that will be for a student is there as well. I do know students are asked to submit a first choice and a second choice, and the majority of our students are getting one of those choices that they're requesting. So that information is coming as well. And then again, if you have questions about that, you'll have an opportunity to get clarification if you need to before you submit your request.
Very good. Jess, I know you were searching for the marching band move-in date. Were you able to secure that information?
Yeah, so our website right now says Monday, August 9th, but I think that's last year's. So it hasn't been updated yet, I don't think, because our move-in day this year is the 18th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, oh no, that's probably right then, actually. So it looks like August 9th, around August 9th, which is a Monday, around 3 p.m.-ish. Students will be able to check in, and then camp goes through until about 9:30 p.m. on the 17th. And then the 18th is move-in day. So that's that day that I was talking about where you get to avoid all the chaos and get, you can help your roommate move in if you want. But it looks like the 9th on our website. I would double check with Rich Edwards, who is the director of the marching band, to confirm, but it looks like that's what it says on our website. There's also a band handbook that requires a list of materials you need for band camp, including what you need to pack for things to wear and different things like that. So I would encourage you to go on our website and look up the Marching Bishops camp information.
And I know that March 9th is actually a Tuesday, so it's either out of date on the website or just the date is wrong. So what I will do is I will ask Rich Edwards to send out some clarifying information. What I know is also really important though for marching band students, he is keeping track of those students who have filled out the intent to participate form. And from those students who have completed that, he will be starting his communication. So make sure that if you do intend to participate in marching band, you complete that form. That will then, of course, make sure that you are hearing all the details and the very specific date, and we'll get that clarified and make sure you have that information. Laura, a couple of questions have come in relative to foreign language. If you took a foreign language class in high school, want to take the same language at Oh-Wooo, how do you go about trying to either advance to a higher level, or perhaps you decide you want to test out of a language because you are advanced in that?
Great question. So all students are required to take 2 semesters or have credit for 2 semesters of taking a foreign language at Ohio Wesleyan. So of course, many students will take a language during high school and may want to continue studying that language. And because you've had some instruction in it already and practice in it, you might not need to start at the 110 level, the introductory level. We know that a lot of students take either French or Spanish. And so as part of that online course that students take before registration in the summer, there will be a placement test that students can take online if you plan on continuing French or Spanish. So this is not for people who just decide, I've never had French before and I want to take that in the fall. This is for people who want to continue taking French, but have taken something in high school already, or maybe early college credit or something like that. So you can take that placement test in French or Spanish, and then it will be available, the score will be available to help you and your faculty registration guide place you in the correct course when you register around in June. That's one of the ways, at least for those 2 courses, that you can figure out where to be, what level, and whether you can get potentially credit. If you place out of the 110 level with that particular test, you don't actually get credit for it, but you place out of it, which means we acknowledge that you've got the strong background and we'll put you in the 2nd level of that particular class. So it would be 111, either French or Spanish, and then you would get credit for that. Now it's okay, we still count that because if you placed out of it, that means you have enough background. So it still would fulfill the graduation requirement. After the 111 level, you don't need to take anything more if you don't want to, but there are opportunities to do that. There's also placement by AP. If students get a 4 or a 5, they generally will get course credit for an introductory level of that particular course, including a language. And there is also the early college credit or transfer credit for students who may have taken a college level course, even though still in high school, and have that transferred. If it's a transfer credit from an accredited university, that does count as a credit here, and it does count towards courses for graduation as the number of courses needed. So if students are planning on continuing taking a language that's not French or Spanish that we offer here at Ohio Wesleyan, generally what we do, since there aren't that many students, we have them meet with the people who teach those courses and kind of have a conversation, figure out where they best need to be. That conversation may happen after registration. So in that case, students will have to use their best judgment as to whether they place in 110 or 111 when they work with their faculty registration guides. And then once they have a chance to talk with a faculty member in that language, then we can rearrange schedules a little bit. And that's certainly something that can happen before the first day of class.
Very good. Somebody asked about the calendar. I went ahead and in the chat, so that everybody could see it, I put a link to the academic calendar that does address when semesters start and end and breaks that students will have over the 2022-23 academic year. So that link is in the chat. Maybe Doug or Jess want to take this one. Is there a Parents' Day or weekend in the fall? And if so, what if a family is too far away or can't afford the trip? Their concern is about their child feeling left out or homesick during that time period.
Yeah, we do have a kind of family weekend that's associated with homecoming. So it's typically in October, or it's somewhere around there. I'm sure we can find that and get that information to you. But there will be plenty of activities on campus. Along the way, it's kind of important to note we do have an involvement fair, and we'll be talking with students about ways to be involved and engaged in activities. So there'll be a lot built around homecoming weekend and family weekend. Hopefully students who don't have family coming in will still have plenty to do and different ways to be engaged on campus.
I would say don't panic if a family member can't be there for that weekend. There's so much going on for students that are activities where it's family friendly, but sometimes students just come with a group of their friends and enjoy it. So I wouldn't worry too much if it's just not feasible for any reason.
I'll also mention, just from the parent perspective, having 2 children in college right now. My daughter is a first-year student in college. And while I think of her as one of the more social kids that I know, she was very homesick when she first went away. It is something of an inevitability that many students will be homesick. But I actually will say too, the difference between the institution she attends and Ohio Wesleyan is that Ohio Wesleyan's orientation, Camp Oh-Wooo, those early days on campus really draw a student in, give them so many opportunities to interact with others, to meet people, to be busy right from the start, that it is truly for the student who's maybe a little shyer or quieter. I think that they have these natural pathways to start to make connections right from the get-go. So while your son or daughter may struggle with homesickness at some point in time, it is perfectly normal and natural. But I also think that we are very cognizant of that and really try and right from the start help students start to feel that Oh-Wooo is their home away from home. All right, Laura, maybe you can confirm this. Does Ohio Wesleyan have American Sign Language? I believe the answer is no. I do know we've had a sign language club on and off over the years. I don't believe there is one active at this moment. Doug or Jess can verify that, but I believe there are not courses offered. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, very good. Let's see. Are there any sessions for parents during orientation?
Well, the online orientation in the summer, no, but during like move-in and stuff, there's not a whole lot going on for parents because you're here to move your student in and get them, acclimated, and then they go right to camp. So there's not really a whole lot of time for parents to hang out on campus. And that's why we weren't sure about convocation, because it depends on the dates for convocation and when a student, that event happens. So typically there's not a whole lot when you come to campus, but you can participate in these sessions if you have more questions, or contact us if you ever have something that you're interested in learning about as a parent.
I do know that Brad Polsini, who works closely with the student orientation program and will be offering the virtual program, is planning to host sessions like this, just open hours for parents and or students to come and ask questions, to meet some of the individuals on campus in that way. We know that you'll have questions as things progress, and New at Oh-Wooo is a great resource for that, but I believe there will also be in that publication dates advertised for other opportunities to connect and have your questions answered. But yes, that first day is very much moving in, getting your son or daughter set up in their spaces, and then they get busy right away with all the activities that are part of orientation. Laura, here's an interesting one. Is there anything besides taking a language course that could fulfill the language requirement?
Sure, another great question. So there is an option available for students who have documented issues with learning languages. We know there are many people with different types of abilities, and sometimes students really just have a lot of difficulty processing a language, learning a new language. And if that is documented, then the students can petition or at least fill out an application to have another course count or another 2 courses count instead of taking a foreign language. This is something that they need to start working on their first semester coming to Ohio Wesleyan by filling out the appropriate paperwork and submitting that to, I believe it's the registrar's office, who will then take that to the academic status committee, and that will be reviewed. It's also reviewed by the director of our accessibility services. At the moment, that's Stephanie Rowland, and we value Stephanie's input very strongly. She is very good at working with students and helping us to gauge what students really could benefit from this. So in general, students need to take a foreign language, but if there is some documented issue that would impede the students' progress towards graduation, then we can look into an exception.
Great, thank you for that. Laura, this question is, are we able to request timing on classes we want to take? I mean, the timing that is available and desirable for the student. Perhaps you want to talk a little bit about when one takes general education classes, makes progress toward a major, just sort of the outline of an academic program.
Sure, of course. So like I said a few moments ago, everything that students take will make progress toward graduation, starting from the very first semester. So when students work with the faculty registration guides, we like to try to get them in at least 1, maybe 2 classes that are in an area that they think they might want to major in. But we also have courses that students need to take. They're called general education requirements. This is to make sure students have a well-rounded background in education and can think from a variety of different standpoints and approach problems from several angles. So they're not just focused in one direction. This is really important in today's world where we have very complex problems and it takes creative thinking to solve problems and to make progress. So our general education requirements require students to take, in most cases, 3 courses in the humanities, 3 courses in the natural sciences, 3 courses in the social sciences, and 1 course in the fine arts. We also have students take a quantitative reasoning course, which could be a math course, but isn't necessarily. Of course, the foreign language and writing courses. There's a first-year English course that all students are required to take unless they have transfer credit or have tested out by AP scores or even SAT or ACT scores. So there are a variety of ways they can be exempt from that. But otherwise, all students take that course. And then throughout the next 4 years that students are with us, they take courses in writing. These aren't all English courses, and they might even be in a course in that student's major. It's a way to learn to write across the curriculum, not just one certain way. So again, it could be in a variety of different classes. So when students come in the summer, we like to make sure they're in 1, maybe 2 courses that they'd like to explore as a possible major or majors. And then we get them into some of these general education courses. It sometimes turns out that when students are taking these general education courses, it's when they find out what their passion is. It might end up being their major. They maybe never thought possible that they could want to be a sociology, anthropology major, and they take that course and they think, wow, this is it. This is what my passion is. And so not only does that course turn into their major, but that course counted towards graduation. So they had a chance to explore other courses and count it towards graduation. As far as timing, I always like to work with students to kind of spread out those general education requirements, because when you're taking some of those strong major courses, it's kind of nice to break it up with something that's not in your major. Students need to take, in general, 4 courses per semester in order to graduate on time. We do a great job at getting our students out in 4 years. It's almost guaranteed. I can't completely guarantee it, but it's very rare to have a 5th-year senior. And I know at some schools that's common, but not here. We make sure students are out in 4 years and they get their full educational experience. Now, if you're talking about what time during the day you want to take things, we do have courses scheduled at different times of the day from 8 a.m. through 4 p.m. on Monday through Friday. Sometimes they are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, one 50-minute period at a time, or they could be Tuesday, Thursday, when we have some longer 90-minute periods, since it's only 2 days a week. And sometimes students want to avoid certain times of the day, and sometimes that's not possible. So you work with your advisor and do the best you can. And, sometimes you're taking that 8 a.m. class. It's okay.
That's right. And Laura, the student provided clarification around the fact that they were looking to see if they took a class at noon, could that same class be offered in the morning or later afternoon? And it does depend on the class, right?
It certainly does. Sometimes we have multiple sections of courses, but not always. Sometimes there's only one section of the course offered, and it's the only time that you can take that course. So some of our first-year courses, like Psych 110, we have multiple courses, and you might be able to take that same course at different times during the day. Same with English 105, which is the first-year writing course. But other courses are only offered once and during the day. And so if you want to take that course, that is the time you need to take it, and you need to make sure your other courses can fit in around that time.
Great. And I think we might have had a student join us late. They were asking about what move-in day looks like for students. I'll just address that quickly since I know we've touched on that. I do think it depends on when you move in. We know that a lot of our students actually move in before the official move-in day. They've come for summer bridge. They're here as part of a sports team. They're participating in marching band. So they may move in earlier and with a smaller group of students. But when the official move-in day happens in August, typically the day is mostly about moving in, getting yourself settled, getting your room set up so that you can really plunge into all the activities that then occur. We then typically by the mid to later part of the afternoon, there are activities for the class to start to come together, to meet. And I believe there are also hall meetings, typically that evening. Jess, Doug, anything you'd add to that quick overview of what move-in day looks like?
There will be lots of people there to help you. But yeah, I think that's a good summary.
Yeah, me too.
Great. How about Doug, when you get your roommate assignment in the summer, will you receive their contact information in order to communicate with them?
Yeah, and Jess pointed out earlier, and we can't emphasize it enough, use your Oh-Wooo email. But that would be a great way to contact the roommate that you'll have. Yes, you'll know who your roommate's going to be. You'll have an opportunity to connect with them. A lot of students do that on social media. I get that, but you'll at least be able to trade emails with them. And as we've mentioned before, please use email because that's the best way for us to communicate with students as well.
Great. And we are 1 minute before the 8 o'clock hour here in Delaware, Ohio, and we have one more question left. So this is perfect timing. Laura, the last one's for you. If you're in the honors program, how many honors courses does one typically take in a semester?
That's a great question. And it could be, I would think most of the time 1, potentially 2. I don't know that taking more than that is necessarily a good idea because those are a little bit more demanding. There are a couple of different ways honors courses can be taken. They can be taken as an honors seminar, which are courses open to first-year and second-year students, and it's a regular course that meets and discusses or works on various problems. There could also be honors tutorials, and those are usually open to first-year students who then get an opportunity to work one-on-one with faculty members right away doing research. So that's kind of an exciting way to work that. There are also honors courses The honors courses may be set up to be completely just an honors course, only honors students take them, or they could be honors in course, which means it's a course that you may be in the same class as non-honors students, but there are additional projects and additional work and maybe additional papers or discussions that the rest of the class wouldn't be part of, but students who are taking it as the honors in course would do so. So there are a variety of different ways that a student could take an honors course. There are also a certain number of courses that need to be taken along with a signature project to be done and apply to do that signature project before graduation. So I would say that probably because of the demand of those courses, taking one but no more than 2 honors courses a semester would probably be the way to go.
Very good. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here this evening, and thanks to those participants for all of your great questions. You can see that each of our panelists' picture and email address, as well as the area in which they work, is here on the screen. If you have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to them. They can point you in the right direction if they don't have the answer, or they will take care of answering your question themselves. But again, thanks to all for joining us this evening, and have a good rest of your night. Bye-bye.